the recording. Okay. So we are going to study today certain aspects of financial system and markets. This is part 2 of the chapter. In this, I'm going to cover the importance of the financial system, why it is important to have a good or efficient financial system. We are also going to see what role does a financial system play in the economic development of any country. And the last but not the least, we are going to close the chapter with understanding Indian financial system components and certain what is the structure of this financial system in India. So let us move ahead to understand the importance of financial system. Now, as I said earlier, financial system basically is very important or is very critical for any economy, because there is a flow of money in this system which happens, and this flow of money is from the lenders to the people who require the money. So this financial system basically sees that there is a continuous flow of funds between whosoever the saver is and whosoever the borrower is. So this basically allows the flow of fund and not stagnate it at one place. So because of this, the economic growth, if you see, the flow of funds would be helpful enough for growing the economy. And for anything to grow, again, there is certain thing which is required and which is called as a financial intermediation. In the last chapter, we had seen that this financial intermediation is generally done by banks or financial intermediaries in the market. So your financial system to be efficient, there has to be a continuous flow of funds that is happening between the savers and between the borrowers. Now, what does this ensure? Basically, it ensures that your financial resources are used and these resources are allocated efficiently. Whosoever requires it gets it, and these allocated funds basically are towards promotion of or promoting the economic growth or development of a particular country. So its main basic function or focus is on economic development and prosperity or economic growth, also to promote certain activities in the economy so that the economy runs well. So this is the basic importance of financial system. Also, with financial system comes, as I said earlier, economic growth is there. Now, economic growth, when does it happen? When there is certain industrial activity happening in your country. So let's take an example of COVID. In COVID, if we take the lockdown scenario, everything is closed. So is there any industrial activity going on? No, there is no industrial activity going on because the industries are shut. So if the industry is shut, there is no usage of funds, rather there is no production, and this production doesn't get converted into sales. So there is no, or rather the economic growth, if you see, as far as India is concerned, it has come down. The simple reason is because the flow of funds is not activated or it is not in a continuous motion. So it gets a certain setback and then it moves again when India goes for unlock. Okay, so this is how the economy works. Now, what a financial system will help you to accelerate the volume and rate of savings also. If I have money, definitely I will think of saving it, okay, rather than spending it on luxury items. Now, why I'm thinking of saving it? Because I'm thinking of investing it somewhere. Now, your financial system, as I said, there are two versions to it. There are lenders and there are borrowers. So lenders will also always try to save the money. If the economic activity is good enough, the lenders have enough of money to save also. So this volume and rate of savings automatically will accelerate the growth in the economy. Now, when we talk about financial system, again, you can't keep the activity or industrial activity, whatever is happening within the country, without any monitoring system in place. So you need to monitor, any financial system will have certain regulators or certain monitors who will check how the economy or how the industry has been running. So any discrepancies found, this system will try to capture those inconsistency and will try to find out the reasons why this inconsistency or why these anomalies are happening, and try to curb those anomalies. Now, financial system also facilitates Reserve Bank of India as far as India is concerned. It will facilitate the Reserve Bank of India to execute its monetary policy. So there are two types of policies, fiscal and monetary. So monetary policy basically is looked after by Central Bank of Central Bank, that is Reserve Bank of India, and any decision taken as far as monetary policy is concerned, those things are to be executed by Reserve Bank of India. Now, financial system will also facilitate the evaluation of your assets. So any asset within a financial system that would be evaluated, as in you could see the depreciation or you could see the appreciation of any particular assets which form a part of this financial system. So whether it be in connection to any industry, or whether it be in connection to the government or to the banks, all these would be facilitated with evaluation of assets. The next one is about, let's understand what role is there of financial system in economic development. We have already seen that financial system is a support system to economic growth in any country. Now, if the financial system is not efficient, not good enough, not effective enough, it is definitely going to hamper the economic growth of any country. Now, financial system basically deals with three interrelated and interdependent variables. Now, money, as I said earlier, funds have to be flown in the system. If funds don't flow, if there are no savers, your financial system will get collapsed. Okay. Secondly is credit. Only if you save, it is not going to work. So credit, loans, facility of giving credits, this has to be there in the system. If only people go on saving, but this saved money is not used by anybody, then this flow is not going to be smooth enough. Okay. So money, credit, and then finance is also important, because again you could take it as one of the concepts which is connected with the top two concepts. Now, finance, again, it talks about sourcing of funds and usage of funds. If credit is not taken by any borrower, how he or she will finance a particular uh, particular uh, what do you say, a particular productive kind of activity. So again, that is an issue. So all these three things coming together will ensure that your financial system is going on well. If any one of the thing is getting hampered, definitely your financial system is weak, and the economy is not going to grow as per the way it had to grow. So all these things are interrelated and also interdependent on each other. Now, moving on, let's understand there is one more thing which is connected with the role that financial system plays as far as economic development is concerned, and that is the financial system also influences the quality and pace of economic development. As I said earlier, if suppose nobody takes credit, so the pace of economic development will get into a slower mode. Okay. Let's take an opposite view. If there are good number of borrowers in the market, and if there are good number of savers in the market, then this pace of economic development will move to a higher pace. Okay. It will not go into a slow pace, but it will have a good pace or a higher pace of development. So money is flowing, the way the money is flowing in the market, it decides how the pace of economic development or how the quality of the development is going to happen within a country. Also, this any efficient financial system will say that, or rather you can judge from it, that whether the growth that is happening is sustainably going to happen, or whether it would be a stagnant kind of growth, or what do you say, part by part growth of a particular system. So if it is efficient financial system, definitely there would be a sustainable economic growth. So that is a condition, and you can judge the economic development. You can keep it in tandem with the financial system, and you can understand whether a particular country is really having an efficient financial system or a hampered kind of financial system. So these are some of the aspects which are concerned with the role financial system plays in the economic development of any country. Now, moving on, let's understand how this financial system, how it is made up of. Okay, so we over here, because the subject says it is about financial system in India, so we are going to concentrate on Indian financial system, and we are going to now see the structure and various components which form this Indian financial system. Now the first one, if you could see in the red, the financial system over here, you could see the four major components of the financial system, that is financial institutions, financial markets, financial instruments, and financial services. Now, as far as institutions are concerned, there are again two subtypes, banking institutions and non-banking institutions, which can be further divided into commercial banks, cooperative banks, regional, rural banks, and foreign banks. Commercial banks again could be divided into private bank and public bank. The next, moving forward, another component of financial system is financial markets. Now there are again two types of markets that you could see over here, organized markets and unorganized markets. So unorganized markets are not regulated, whereas organized markets basically are regulated by some regulating authority. So there are capital market and there is money market. Again, capital market could be subdivided into secondary market and primary market. Next, moving on, another component of financial system is financial assets or instruments. Now, we are going to go much deeper into this later in the chapter. The next component, which is again very important, is financial services. Now, financial services could be subdivided into fund-based service and a fee-based service. So I've written what comes under fund-based. So leasing, hire purchase, consumer credit, bill discounting, factoring, insurance, etc. come under fund-based service. Fee-based service generally are services which are given subsequently by offering certain money or by giving certain fees, paying for that service and then getting that service. So it is issue management, merchant banking services, credit rating services, debt restructuring services, stock broking, etc. So these are some of the components, or this is basic structure of your financial system. Let's move on to understand all the four key components of financial system. The first component, as I said earlier, there are four key components: financial institutions, financial markets, financial services, and financial instruments. So let's start understanding all these key components. The first component, as I have said earlier, is financial institutions. Now, there are two types of financial institutions, banking and non-banking institutions. Also, you can classify the financial institutions into three basic categories: regulatory, intermediaries, and non-intermediaries. So these are some of the financial institutions. So these are main classifications of or three categories of financial institutions. Moving ahead, let's understand what are these. Okay, so two types of financial institutions. As I said earlier, there was two categories that I had shown to you: banking and non-banking. Now, banking institution basically is an institution or a bank, or you could also call it as a credit union. It tries to collect money from the public. In return for whatever the public gives to these kind of systems, in return they either get a money or they get interest for all types of deposits of money that they keep it with these banking systems. Another thing, as far as banking systems are concerned, these banks, they generally, we all know that banks generally use such kind of money. They try to advance the loans to any customer who comes to them and asks for ask for certain requirements, and then bank tries to lend the loans to such kind of customers. So individuals as well as organizations become a part of this banking system. Some play a role of a lender and some play a role of a borrower. So depending on the scenario, these roles may be changed from time to time. And whatever the lender keeps with the bank, he or she gets interest against that. And whatever the bank offers to the borrowers, again the bank gets the interest rate against that. So this is how the banking system works. Next system, which is called as a non-banking kind of institutions. Now these don't get into banking scenarios. So whatever banks do, these non-banking institutions don't do. So it is not like you have a saving account with a non-banking firm. Okay, so that doesn't happen with a non-banking firm. So these firms, why they are formed? They are formed because they can sell certain financial products to certain investors or certain customers. So who all come into this non-banking segment? There are brokerage firms, there are insurance firms, or there are mutual fund companies that come into the non-banking institution category. Now, their basic reason why they come into this non-banking category is because they directly cannot collect money from any person or any customer or any investor. So what they do is they have certain financial products with them. They try to sell these products to the customers and try to get money out of those products. So if you see, they are not lending anybody, okay, nor they are keeping any deposits from the customers. They are just selling certain financial products, and against those financial products they are getting the money, or they are trying to collect the money, or trying to get a pool of money. So these kind of banks or firms, they generally come under the non-banking institutions category. The next is, as I said earlier, financial institutions can be also classified under three different categories. So the first category is your regulatory category. Now it will try to regulate the financial markets and protect the interests of all the investors in the financial markets. So for example, there is SEBI. For example, there is IRDA, which looks after insurance. Then there is Reserve Bank of India, who will try to regulate all the banking banks in the country. Okay, SEBI tries to regulate all the stock exchanges in the country. So regulatory authorities or regulatory kind of institutions generally would try to regulate the markets, and they would try to protect the interest of any investor which is attached to the market. Okay. The second type of institution is called as the intermediaries. Now they provide short-term loans. Other loan requirements are also satisfied. Now these loan requirements may come either from individuals or corporate customers. So they try to accommodate the short-term loans or any financial service requirements of the individuals as well as the corporate houses. So this is the work of financial intermediaries. Now examples of these financial intermediaries are commercial banks like SBI, PNB, ICICI. Okay, these come under the commercial banks category. Then there are non-intermediaries. Now they provide very long-term kind of loans, and again they provide it to corporate customers. So NABARD agricultural provides agricultural loan. So this is for long term. Then there is IDBI also, who provides long-term loans to corporate houses. So these are again different classifications you can do of the said financial institutions. Moving on, let's understand the second key component of your financial system, and that is financial markets. Now, the main function of any financial market is to offer a marketplace for buyers and sellers. So, any financial market, you will see two category of people, buyers and sellers, and there is a floor for either purchasing or for either selling a particular security. Now, again, you could see financial markets are divided into two basic categories, the capital market and the money market. So capital market basically deals in long-term securities. Any security which is having a maturity more than 1 year could be traded in the capital market. Whereas money market deals with very short-term or short-term debt instruments. And these instruments generally have a maturity which is less than a year. So this is a basic about capital or money market. Moving on to the third component, which is called as a financial services. Okay, now financial services basically what is there or what is known as a financial service. So any instrument which is designed or delivered, or any kind of advisory service given by a financial intermediary to an individual or a business, and which is again related to the area of banking or related to financial institutions or related to personal financial planning, leasing, housing, investments. So all these come under the financial services. So any intermediary who offers a financial service either does two important works, that is designing and delivering of instruments, or either gives an advisory service to anyone who requires it. Now, financial services again can be divided under two heads, that is fund-based services and non-fund-based services. Now, let's understand what is fund-based service first. Now, as I said earlier, there are two categories, fund-based financial services and non-fund-based financial services. Now, fund-based financial services basically are financing method, and they are driven by certain assets of a particular company. So if there is account receivable, or if there is machinery, or if there is an equipment, or if there is an real estate which has been purchased by an organization, okay, and the organization wants certain loans from the financial intermediaries, that is in the form of money, okay, that is in the form of money. So in that case, they go for a fund, for securing a fund-based financial service. Okay, so any financial intermediary supporting an organization to fund either inventory or a machinery or a equipment or any other necessity of an organization, then in that case, if it is supported by cash or money or loan, so in that case it would be called as a fund-based financial service which has been given by the intermediary to the organization or to the company. Now, assets generally include current assets. So if a company has a working capital need and it tries to approach the bank saying that I need a working capital of 1 crore rupees, but I don't have, can you lend me 1 crore rupees? So in that case, if the financial intermediary, that is in this case bank, offers 1 crore rupees loan to the organization, it would be called as a fund-based financial service that is being given by the bank to the organization. Now let's understand, as I said earlier, there is a bank or an intermediary involved, okay, and some amount is given or some cash or some money is given to the organization to support its day-to-day working or long-term needs. So in that case, the intermediary can charge an interest for whatever amount has been transferred to the organization. So the intermediary can charge certain interest rate, whatever is the rate going in the market. So it can charge the interest accordingly, and then outlay can happen to the borrower. Now again, when the outlay happens in the form of sanction of credit facility to the borrower, it would be again called as a fund-based service. And why this service is being taken by the organization? Because it wants to support certain assets, or it wants to transform certain assets, or it wants to purchase something, or it wants to run its day-to-day show. So there might be a number of reasons why these funds are being taken by the intermediary, by the organization. Moving on, what are the different types of fund-based financial service? So there is lease financing, hire purchase, consumer credit or consumer finance. For example, some individuals go and buy a mobile phone on a credit basis, or rather on a loan, or they may purchase a car on a loan. So in that case, it would be called as a consumer credit or consumer finance, which is given to an individual. The next is factoring services. Again, these are fund-based services, venture capital financing and housing finance. So example of fund-based financing activities are working capital requirements, which are given by the way of cash and credit, overdraft facilities, portfolio management facilities, angel financing or seed capital which is given, any project finance which is given, any mortgages that are taken in case for investment of in certain shares or debentures or bonds. If a firm needs money, so in that case, if an intermediary has provided money, it would be called as a fund-based activity. Also dealing in foreign exchange, micro credits, retail loans. There are certain priority sectors also. As far as India is concerned, agriculture becomes a priority sector. And if some intermediary is giving agri finance, so in that case, it would be called as a priority sector lending. So this is about fund-based activity. Now let's move on to understand non-fund-based services. So non-fund-based means there is no outlay of funds from the financial intermediary. Okay, only services are provided, but in actual outlay of funds doesn't happen. So no company comes for asking for working capital needs. If it does, then it is a fund-based service if the bank offers that. If there is some other thing that the company needs, so in that case it would be called as a non-fund based service. So these are advisory kind of services which the banks may provide, or certain institutions or intermediaries may provide. Now what are now again, for when they offer such kind of ancillary or advisory service, bank generally charges a fee, or any financial intermediary would charge a fee or commission for whatever service it is offering to the other party. Okay, so now what comes under this non-fund based kind of services? So if you could see over here, I've underlined something. It says that it involves only issuing banks commitment to honor certain promises. So if a company is into export import business, and if they are asking for a guarantee to be given by a bank, so in that case bank is not giving any money to them. They are only offering a guarantee or a document which is saying that we guarantee this person that no as far as payments are concerned, it would be on a regular mode. So in this case, only a document is going from the bank side or from the intermediary side, which is favoring a third party. So no outlay of funds happen, and so it is called as a non-fund credit facility. So this is how a non-fund based service works. So this does not deal into funds or any cash transactions. Letters of guarantee and letters of credit are some types of this kind of non-fund based services. You can also take certain services like custodian service, credit card service, merger or acquisition service. Sometimes for an IPO, some companies need managing the capital issues or IPO issues. So in that case, if a merchant banker offers such kind of service, then it would come under the non-fund based category. Custodian services are there, then trustship services are there. Okay, so all these services are examples of your non-fund based services. Next is financial instruments. Now, this is the last key component of your financial system. Let's understand what it is. Now, basically, when we talk about financial instruments or assets, it's a claim against a person or a financial institution to pay a certain specific amount on a certain future date, or to pay a principal amount along with interest. Now, what does that mean? So I have purchased a share of Reliance Industries, and this share I with this share I become an owner of that company for the shares, the number that or the quantity that I've purchased. So supposedly I purchased 100 shares, I would be a part owner of the company. Now the company pays certain money on it, okay, in the sense, in the form of dividend to me. At the end of every year, if the company is in a profitable position, the company will pay me certain dividend against the 100 shares I have of that company. Okay, it won't happen that I'm carrying 100 shares and the company is paying me for 1000 shares. So whatever I hold, only that much I would get out of that company. So I can claim that that amount is being claimed by me as a shareholder of that company. Similarly is the case for debenture holders. So in case of debenture holders, the debenture holders get the interest amount. Okay, so this is how it works, and there are some examples that I've written: cash deposits, checks, shares, debentures, etc. So all these come under that category. I'll stop here today.